Hey everyone, Don here, and this is the drawing process for the illustration that I did of the scene out of Deadpool with Deadpool, Colossus, and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And so I finally got it finished, and thought I'd go ahead and briefly talk about it. It's not necessarily this is a working tutorial or anything like that, but just some highlights and some insight on how I approach this. I'm using Painter, pretty much straight out of the box. No special brushes or filters or anything like that. So it's just basically, just sitting down and doing a drawing, for, just for the pure joy of sitting down and drawing. And so anyway, there's a few little things that, I like doing. I've been incorporating in, quite a few of my drawings as of late, and it's been kind of like a progression. So yeah, I was really happy the way this one turned out, and we'll see what the next drawing has in store. I'll probably incorporate the same techniques here and there. So far on this image, this is pretty straightforward. It's just the pencil stage, getting down all of the pertinent information. And then right now I'm just laying down initially the darks, the blacks, and when I get to a certain point that I feel comfortable with the darks and getting those values in, I'll go ahead and hit it with white to pull out more of that detail, particularly here on Colossus's face. I hit those whites, pretty much those specular highlights, and it really kind of shows off his metallic skin. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward, and then I'll move on to the next character, and so on. Work it a little bit, bounce back and forth to Colossus and Deadpool. Then at some later stage, when I feel like these characters are developing nicely and I don't have to worry about them so much, I'll move on to the next character. And for me personally, I generally start with the face. Really, it's just like, if you don't get the face down correctly, it doesn't matter how much shading or blending or whatever you do, it's just not going to look right. And so really on each character, I just want to make sure that I nail down that face and I'm comfortable with it, and then I move on to the next. Right there, if you noticed, I had taken the airbrush and used the tonal value of the paper and sprayed over Colossus's face, and just to push everything back a little bit. And then I'll go in with black and just kind of pull those blacks back out, and then again with white as well, and bring out those highlights. It's just something that I do to I don't know, it just kind of brings in some texture, some noise about the whole process, and I think it just adds some neat elements to it, some interest. At this stage, it is very, very minimal. You really don't notice it too much, but later on, I'll start incorporating more of a, I think it was just a speckle brush with the airbrush, and then at some point I'll use splatter, and also later on you'll notice that not only will I just use the color of the paper, but I'll just go all the way black and spray over it to add some noise to it as well. I think, yeah, right here there's some, I just went ahead and used black, sprayed over everything. Then go back in, rework some of the highlights, and hit some of the midtones again over that. Yeah, and then later on I'll even use white and spray over everything. And I just love how it just builds up between the blacks, the whites, the midtones, and just the spontaneity and where those splatters are going to fall on the image. And you have control to a certain degree of where they're going to go and what they're going to do, how they're going to interact. And, you know, and if an area gets a little unruly, you can always rework it. Just go in with the pencil, rework it. I might add also that, you know, like I said, pretty much using the brush tool set right out of the box. The only thing that I did modify was the eraser. Basically, I just took the pencil that I was using and made another brush out of it and assigned it to be the eraser. That way, when I did erase in areas, it still had that same texture and look as the pencil I was using. And then also the brush, not the brush, but the pencil, I really didn't change the size of it. You know, I was just using my Wacom tablet, the tilt feature. So just by angling my stylus, it would mimic using the edge of your pencil. So really had a lot of fun incorporating that aspect. On the speckles here, you see where I hit the speckles. I love using those, but you know, if you choose to use speckles, just, you know, don't overdo it. Also be mindful of where they land on a person's face. On Colossus, you know, you could get away with it because he had metallic skin and it was a little pitted and looked like it had some weathering to it. But if you use it on a person's face, if you're going to incorporate it like in a portrait or something like that, just be mindful of, you know, where those speckles are going to lay, and you don't want them to wind up looking like blemishes. You know, on the final image you can see where Deadpool has them, Colossus has it, but Negasonic here, you know, you can see she's got some on her chin, her cheek, her forehead. The ones on her nose have already been dealt with. So, yeah, just, you know, be careful. They're fun, but they could turn out to be a major distraction if you're not careful. You can see where I've been hitting the airbrush with the speckle spray with white over everything, and then going back, reworking the darks and even the whites, just pull everything out. It's like a push and pull process on this drawing. And as you can see, I'm still shying away from the background. Not sure what I'm going to do yet. Hadn't made up my mind. Not sure if I'm going to use the image out of the movie, or if I was just going to go the whole route of just making it nondescript with you know, maybe a gradient or a splatter or a splash. Really didn't know. Hadn't decided to take that dive yet. Oh, but you know, it was a fun drawing to do. Really liked it, and the challenge was with her face was that at least in the movie still, or whatever I was able to grab wasn't that in focus. She was, even though she was in the foreground, they were focusing in on, I guess, Deadpool, and it was a still out of a moving image. So when you stop that, you get that bit of that blur because they weren't standing still. So there was a little bit of interpretation as far as where some of that detail in her face was. So, but it was working out pretty good. I think it turned out. And again, I don't bounce back and forth from character to character, just making sure that it stays consistent as far as detail, back and forth, and also I just for a lack of a better word, I lose enthusiasm if I stay focused in on one area too long. I just like I've worked this area long enough. I'm kind of burned out, so I'll bounce over to the other two characters and kind of start it with new eyes. And also, you've noticed that I'll flip the image back and forth. Tried and true technique to make sure that you haven't missed any problem areas. And it's surprising how your eye gets acclimated with looking at the image, viewing it from one way. And when you flip it, it's almost like it'll hit you right off the bat that man, this is a big problem area. You just didn't notice it when it was flipped the other way. Before I started doing digital art, I would actually hold a drawing up to a mirror. So it was basically doing the same thing. You're just flipping the image. And so, if you haven't already done it in your drawings, start doing it. If you're doing it digitally, just flip the whole canvas, look at it from another angle. If you're doing it traditionally, hey, grab a mirror, put that picture up next to a mirror, and look at it from that view. You'll be surprised. Okay, what else? This, like I said, this is pretty much straightforward. I'm only using maybe 2 or 3 layers at a time, and the only reason I'm doing that is just so I can preserve an undisturbed copy. If I venture out to try something new, I haven't destroyed all my progress. I can always go back and start from my last jump off point. Okay, if you noticed, a background image did pop into place. And I apologize for that because I thought I was recording and I wasn't. And, well, there you go. But anyway, I decided to do the whole background from the movie still. And I had some issues with that. And the main one being is that I didn't want it to compete too much with the 3 characters. There was a lot going on with, I guess, that junk pile in the back. But with that, man, I just love that aspect of a lot of things going on in the background too. There was a lot of fun stuff to draw in there. And just to convey, all of that mess back there. And that the scaffolding looking structure back there and the light, the way it came through. It was just really, really cool. The only thing I really did is that I just moved it down a little bit. Just so that it didn't, but it was coming close to creating a tangent on the girl's head. And then I think along with Deadpool's, the hilt of his sword. So I pulled it down a little bit, and then I think I shifted it left or right for the same reason. The tangents in some of the areas, they were just in areas that you really didn't want them to be. So I just messed around a little bit with that. But other than that, it was pretty straightforward as far as what it was. Didn't manipulate it too much. Using the same technique on the background that I did with the foreground characters. You know, just go in and hit those blacks, get those established, let the paper be pretty much your mid-tone for a little while, and then hit some of those highlights. And I knew I didn't want this, like I said earlier, the background to compete with the foreground image. So I was thinking, you know, maybe I'll just do it on a layer and knock it back 50, 60, 70%. And, you know, I've done that in the past, and it worked well. But I just, you know, wanted to try something new. Well, not new, just something different on this one. And so I just left it at 100%. You know, knowing that if I get in the crunch, hey, I can still lower the opacity. I just wanted to see what I could do with that layer at 100%, and just a little personal challenge, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. So anyway, yeah, that's it. And what else? Yeah, again, I'm just spraying over everything. You can see, man, I just really knocked it back with that overspray, and then reworking it. And anyway, I don't think there's really any shortcut with it. It's just, you know, just sitting down and just draw, and just watch it develop. You know, I think that's the cool thing about doing an illustration, you know, and just you know, this wasn't supposed to be a, you know, photoreal knockoff of this image. You know, I wanted it to look, you know, like an illustration, and you know, try to put something personal into it. Yeah, that's about it. You know, just enjoying the drawing, and just kind of thinking now, okay, I got all this established. I know we got that sky back there, and so I'm gonna have to deal with that here in a little bit. But it's all good. You know, it'll start developing. You know, probably what I probably should have done. You know, see, I'm going in and putting in whites around that superstructure and stuff. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done it really at that point, because I'm really liking the way it looks over there by Colossus's shoulder, you know, by his back there, that area. That looked pretty cool. But then those areas right there by Deadpool's head, the back of his head there, it just looked overworked. And it's like, wow, you know, I really probably should have waited on that. But hey, it is what it is, and I just rolled with it. Trying to make a bad area good. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, and the whole border thing kind of looks okay. Yeah, kind of cliche. Everybody, let's throw a border in. Oh, I know, I'm guilty. I did it, and I'll do it again too. So there. All right, yeah. So it's all back down to the noodling, the nitty gritty, getting all that detail in. Some of the areas that I just missed, you know, kind of, you know, pulling some things out here and there. Yeah, shoulder strap, I really kind of flattened that out and didn't realize it. Yeah, getting everything in place, falling together. It's looking good. Yeah, I have to do another one of these characters. Man, they're pretty cool. I really like them. Actually, what I'd like to do is I haven't done it for a while. Sit down and do a painting. And just my schedule's been really, really busy. And I haven't had the time. Or maybe I just haven't taken the time. Maybe that's more like it. It's just that, yeah, okay. Yeah, I just haven't taken the time. But I really need to. I'm going to have to do another color one. And incorporate this technique a little bit more with it. You know, I'm really having fun with this. On all of my other artwork, you know, when I did children's books and toy packaging art and stuff, you know, I had to be pretty straightforward on a lot of the artwork. But as of late, I want to, you know, have some fun with some stuff and experiment. So this was one of them. Just really had a good time with this illustration. And yeah, well, we're almost done. So coming to the end of this illustration right now, and just hitting all the little areas that I think need to be addressed. And you know, I'll probably look at this a week later and go, you know what, I still need to work on some more. But for right now, it's finished. So hey, just want to say thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And yeah, like the sign says, please like if you liked it. If you think somebody else will like it, please share. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you so much.